It is not virtuous that you are treating people different based on their skin color. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Rita. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. So you saw the thumbnail, and this is something that I have been thinking about for quite some time because as some of you may or may not know, when I first started this channel, I had a cult series. Okay, it was a part 1, part 2, and I think these were my first videos. The reason I made those videos, 2 reasons. One, because I think not even a year out of a cult, and I will do an updated video just to give you guys more insight into that and maybe my testimony, but you know, that's another video. But I was in a cult, so I have been a little more sensitive and a little more discerning about the churches that I attend, what they're teaching, so you guys have an idea of my stance and have an idea of where I'm coming from, right? Excuse me, I also am getting over a little bit of a cold. Excuse me. So if I do a little throat clearing and stuff, I apologize in advance. I'll try to edit those out. So favoritism. The Bible has much to say about favoritism and how we are to treat others, how we are to treat the poor, how we are to treat the rich, how we are to treat all sorts of people, the widows, the orphans, right, and the oppressed, how we are to treat people. Why am I talking about this this specifically? So my family and I, we have been in search of a Bible-believing church that's not weird. Okay, a Bible-believing church that is not talking about equity and inclusion.
I have lived most of my life in a pretty white bubble, and yeah, just not even stopping to think about why that is.
Well, now you can unload your guilt in minutes for only $5.95. That's right, $5.95.
How?
By simply dialing 1-900-YT-GUILT.
Doesn't have women pastors.
Today, in the words of the Sparkle Creed, I believe in the non-binary God.
Angels are being dispatched right now. Hamanda aka ata raka deda bak.
That's not talking about laughing in the spirit. Not talking about works as a way to earn salvation. Okay, those are all very unbiblical things to be going on in the church. And we have just been looking for not perfection, but just a church that is not talking crazy stuff. We have had a hard time finding this. Now, here's what I have experienced in visiting churches. One example, we visited this one church. Members, an older man, this was an older congregation, mostly white. And the man says, usually we have a lot more of a diverse gathering here. Okay. Yeah, I don't know where everybody is, but usually, you know, there are a lot more different types of people here. Okay. Now, my response, of course, to him was, well, that's really not a concern for me. I'm more concerned about finding a biblically sound church and not what the people look like. Now I have this habit of researching different churches, what their beliefs are, what they talk about, what are they talking about offline, like in their Bible studies. I try to dip in and listen and hear, you know, about like what they talk about casually. And I found one church, again, seemed okay, seemed sound, but then they have a talk with one of the church, I think he's a youth pastor, white guy, a talk about race. And this needed to be a conversation. Of course, he was young, so he's part of this generation who have been raised on that Black people are oppressed.
Captain, I'm picking up some strange signals. Something about intergalactic oppressors, sir.
So this gets into the heart of what is happening here. The culture is seeping into the church, and it is affecting every aspect of it. The culture says that all Black people are oppressed in some way, that all Black people have experienced some hardships on race. I have not, I will tell you that. But all Black people are destitute, poor, oppressed, and need to be looked after, need to be pandered to, need to be dealt with kid gloves.
But I love black people.
Where people feel the need to come up to you and start talking about race stuff. I just want to say that this is very unfortunate and unbiblical. Okay, so I honestly, I'm not oppressed, and none of these things apply to me. So when people start to treat you this way, they have already assigned something to you, and assign oppression and all the whatever other thing to you, and feels like this conversation needs to happen. Actually, it doesn't. You're in a church. And now if you want to talk about what the culture is, the culture of wickedness that we live in and all that is going on, if you want to talk about that and keep it in within a biblical context of how we should love our neighbor as ourselves and not show favoritism, that would be great. But this is not where this is going. What's happening is we're starting to see churches who are adopting equity and inclusion and race conversations. And they're starting to even, elect people to their elder board and other parts and other positions in their church based on whether or not they're black versus based on whether or not the Lord has called them to said position.
It means at the Village Church, we are going to be serious about seeking and finding gifted, godly, ferocious persons of color.
So this is really not just even about the discomfort that I feel when I go into a church and have people start talking to me about race, but it's also terrible because now we are using the world's methods versus biblical methods in how how people are being staffed in churches. Okay. Now, James 2:1 has much to say about this. I'm going to read it really quick. It says, "My brothers, do not show favoritism as you hold on to the faith in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ. For example, a man comes into your meeting wearing a gold ring and dressed in fine clothes, and a poor man dressed in dirty clothes also comes in. If you look with favor on the man wearing fine clothes and say, 'Sit here in a good place,' and yet you say to the poor man, 'Stand over there,' or 'Sit here on the floor by my footstool,' haven't you discriminated among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts?" Now, while this example is talking about not showing favoritism toward the rich man in this scenario versus the poor man, I think we could address this in terms of the spirit of the law as opposed to the letter of the law, meaning this is not just talking about treating poor people bad and rich people good. The currency of our day is race, identity politics. So this, in my opinion, would also apply to someone comes into your church. You have assumed whatever you have assumed about them based on their race, and so you give them preferential treatment. Okay, so I'm going to read James 3:17. "But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peace-loving, gentle, compliant, full of mercy and good fruits, without favoritism and hypocrisy." Treat people as you would want to be treated, not as you see them. If you see a rich person come in, don't give them preferential treatment. If you see a black person come in, don't give them preferential treatment. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not good fruit. What is happening is you are actually doing the opposite of what you think you're doing. It is not virtuous that you are treating people different based on their skin color. We visited one church, a guest speaker at a Baptist church that we visited. And this man's sermon was based around the idea that the congregants should basically apologize for their whiteness. I was so put off by it. Here's what I'm saying. Churches, I didn't mean to bang on the desk. Here's what I'm saying. Churches, we really need you to get back to the biblical basics. We really need you to stay away from the equity and inclusion. We really need you to stay away from all of this cultural this cultural stuff that is seeping into the church. These are doctrines of demons. I don't care how much the world tells you. I don't care if there's somebody in your congregation who tells you you must have an equity and inclusion meeting. You must have a meeting about race. I'm going to beg that you not do that. Please stop doing that. I get it because sometimes people don't know any better and they're just grasping at straws. Don't do that. Just act like you would with any person and don't treat people weird. Because myself, and I'm sure other Black folk out there, are having a very difficult time finding a Bible-based church, because then you come out of nowhere with some kind of apology about oppression. Just stop. Just stop. It's of the enemy and it's divisive. Okay. Let me know what you guys think, what your experience has been in the comments. Until next time, ciao. God bless.